This is the best lens for sports photography and videography. It's a Tamron 70-180 G2, and I'm going to explain to you why today this is the best all-around lens for sports photography and videography. Make sure to stay tuned to the end so you can see an epic goal celebration I got at my first soccer tournament. This is Tamron's new 70-180 G2 f2.8 lens. It's a zoom lens that is geared towards sports photography and wildlife photography, but I believe it's the best lens you can buy today for sports photography. The Tamron 70-180 f2.8 G2 is heavily regarded as the best sports photography lens and videography lens out today. The first reason as to why I love this lens, especially in comparison to the G1, is that they added internal stabilization to the lens, which I think is a huge game changer. And when I was first getting into sports photography, I really wanted to get the G1 Tamron, but the fact that it was a 70-200 being a zoom lens and it not having stabilization really freaked me out, especially considering I was shooting on my Sony a6400, which is an ASPC body without internal image stabilization. So the fact that they were able to keep that amazing quality and add internal stabilization to the lens was huge. And that's why I believe it can be one of the best lenses for photography out today. But aside from that, the fact that this goes down to f2.8 at a price point of $1,300 is just amazing. The quality coming out of this lens is just it's insane. It's very comparable to the premium Sony 70-200mm G Master, and I personally think for what, like double the price, this can get you just as far. So the specific reason I picked this lens up was because I'm going to be shooting a local high school here in the area. I'm going to be taking some pictures and videos for the local lacrosse team, and their games tend to happen between 7 and 8 p.m. So I really wanted a lens that can go down to f2.8 just because I am going to be shooting towards the nighttime, and although the stadium does have stadium lights, having that extra f2.8 is really going to put my heart at ease, knowing that if I need to go to a lower f-stop, I will be able to. So before we get into it, let me just read off some brief specs of this lens. This is Tamron's new 70-180 f2.8 G2 lens. It goes down to, as I said, a minimum f2.8, and it comes in around 855 grams. I personally believe that the build quality is amazing, and even though it does weigh 855 grams, for most lenses in that 70-200mm lens, I would say this is on the lighter side, and it by no means feels flimsy or cheap. It is made out of plastic materials, but it does feel very sturdy. One thing to keep in mind is that the barrel does extend, which is fine. It makes it easier for travel. And one of my favorite features is that this has added a lot more buttons from the G1 version. So it has one button here on the side that you can use to hold focus. And it has 3 different custom settings where you can program that custom button to do whatever you would like. It also has another button on the side which allows you to lock the barrel. So whenever you're traveling, you can just lock that barrel and be sure that the lens isn't going to extend whenever you're traveling, whenever you leave it in a bag. And then a cool other feature that the G1 version didn't have is that on the side right here, it does have a USB-C port that is weather resistant. You can plug this lens into your computer and program the custom buttons to do whatever you would like, just to make the focusing and the zooming in a lot smoother. I recently got to test this lens out at a soccer tournament I did a couple weeks ago, and let me tell you, this lens for photography is amazing. I was able to test it out during 2 different games, one that was around 7 a.m. just as the sun was rising, and another game around 3 p.m. And what I noticed was in that early game around 7 a.m. when the sun was rising, the f2.8 really did help me out, especially during the warm-ups when the players were still getting warm and the sun wasn't fully up yet. This lens really did allow me to get those crispy, clear pictures without having to bump up my ISO too. For photography, the autofocus is very snappy, very quick. It didn't have any issues when it came to focusing. I would say like you can even compare it to that autofocus of those G Master lenses just because it is so quick, and for photography, I didn't even think it could be faster. It is just so amazingly fast. I don't think it asks for anything else when it comes to autofocus and also manual focusing. When it comes to the stabilization, this is where this lens really does shine, especially for photography. As I said, I never was interested in picking up the G1 version of this lens because it didn't have stabilization. And although I didn't think it would be a big deal, as I started to get more into sports photography, I realized that at a 200mm, not having stabilization is really, really noticeable. Even though your shutter speed is going to be cranked very high, just having that extra security that you can lower your shutter speed if needed is really going to help you out. The fact that this goes down to an f2.8 makes it perfect for any time of the day. The only, I wouldn't even call it a downside, but the only thing to keep in mind when shooting pictures with this lens is it does tend to lean a little bit more towards the warmer side, but I personally like that. It doesn't really bother me too much, and you can also fix that in post without any issues. This lens for videography is amazing. The first time I tested this out, I was completely shocked at how amazing the quality was. Given the first time I ever shot sports videography was with a Sony 55-210mm lens, which is a kit lens that only gets a minimum aperture of 4.5. When I was shooting with it for the first time, I was like, this is okay, it's not bad. I definitely would like something higher quality. But when I put this lens on, I was really, really shocked at how amazing, how clear, how beautiful the quality was coming out of this lens. One more thing to keep in mind is, I don't think I mentioned this, but this lens does come in at a price point of $1,299. I think that's a great price for what you're getting for this lens, considering that the Sony equivalent, which is the G Master 2, comes in at nearly $3,000. I feel for $1,300, this lens is great. And you can always try to see if they have any used lens. I personally did get this lens used. It was about $1,100, so I think it came off like $150, which was not a huge deal, but the lens does look brand new. I couldn't even tell it was used personally. So if you can save with like finding used lens here and there, especially on Amazon, where it gives you all those options, you would definitely be happy with this lens. Overall, I believe this is the best all-around sports photography and videography lens anyone could get. If I personally had to get one zoom lens within the 70-200mm range, it would be this one. I would get this one without thinking twice. I would get it eyes closed just because it comes in at a great price. It has a low f2.8 aperture. The autofocus is quick and snappy. It's not super heavy. It has a good build quality. It has custom buttons, custom presets. It can lock the barrel. The barrel extends. It has a zoom ring. It has a focus ring. It has every feature that you would want coming from a 70-200mm lens, coming in at an excellent price. So if I had to get one lens and make it last my entire career at a good price, it would definitely be this one. For $1,300, I do feel like this is the best all-around decision for someone trying to get into sports photography or videography and get a high quality lens that will last. But if you guys have any other questions or concerns, feel free to leave them down below in the comments. I would love to talk to you guys about more sports photography and videography related things. But aside from that, I'll catch you guys in the next one, and peace.